What are the essential components of a successful implementation? Maybe a reliable source of energy drinks and pizza. Welcome to another episode of the CX Show. We're speaking today with Marco Formaggio, Director Customer Experience at DXC Technology, our partner in Australia. Hi Marco, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hi Svetlana, nice to be with you.
So tell me, what are actually the essential components of a successful implementation?
Look, I think the components are pretty much the same. I think everyone knows them, but they're not always that easy to get right. But it's really that triangle of people, process, and technology. And in the case of device technologies, it was critical getting the right people in terms of from our side as the partner, from SAP's point of view, as well as from the customer. The stakeholders that we have to deal with, the process. Commerce is not just about putting on a front-end website, it's actually about a process that has to be driven and supported from front to back end, and then the technology, bringing together SAP's technologies, but also the partner and the customer to actually implement that technology and make it really work for the customer. And those are the critical aspects of a project, coupled with obviously a lot of hard work and as you said, maybe some pizzas passed under the door late at night, but in the end, it's really about those three components that drive success.
Okay. As you already mentioned, the project with Device Technologies, I suggest we dive a little bit deeper into it. Could you tell us maybe about the main objectives you had for this project?
Yeah, so Device Technologies is an interesting company because it's essentially doesn't actually produce any of its own products. It actually is an agency. It basically has many agencies. In other words, sells products from companies all over the world. The product range is very diverse. From very small consumable products right up to robotic, very expensive, large machines that are used for operations. So the challenge that Device Technologies has is every time they bring on a new agency, they've got to bring in more salespeople, they've got to set up new sales channels. So it was really about how do they produce a face to the customer that is standardized, allows a customer to view their products, that diverse product range, and then actually determine what products they want to buy, get information about the product. So that was really the objective. It was about creating a new channel to market, but more about exposing the diverse range of products in a seamless way to the customer. That's really what was the objectives of the project.
Sounds pretty complex. So I'm wondering, how did you get a green light from Device Technologies executives for such a complicated project?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. So there was a roadmap and a transformation strategy put together with the business. That was actually done by a strategic consultancy. And the numbers that were put forward then to actually deliver that were pretty large. And because it was a long roadmap, and because Device Technologies was and still is a privately owned company, that was a challenge. So what we then eventually worked with the company on is, let's say, well, why don't we take a phased approach? We do a crawl, walk, run approach, where we actually start with a smaller part of the business, where we think there'll be a high possibility of adoption. It's a smaller project that will actually then allow us to prove return on investment. And that's where we were very flexible to work with the customer to say, well, we can really help you reduce the cost of that implementation by working closely with your internal teams, us working as an augmented team as part of your team, and then implement a project for a smaller part of the business. In this case was actually the staff store for their cosmetics line. So we did that, and what we did do by doing that is we actually set up the foundations of the product. In other words, all the back-end integration to the SAP systems, but we didn't actually have to do too much on the user experience and the UI side of things. So it was really proving that the technical process will work, but at the same time measuring the return on investment without too much of a large investment. And by doing that, the implementation was done rapidly. It was rolled out to a user community, which is really the employees of the business. And what they saw was a real rapid increase in sales of those cosmetic products because of the better user experience and just the ability to access products in a much more seamless fashion. And that was then taken back to the management of the business to say, well, look, we've proven through a small investment that we can actually drive increased sales. And that actually created the impetus to say, well, then what's next? What's the next one we can do? So we took that constant phased approach and then measured investment. And then in that way, rather than doing it as a big bang project, the business was able to incrementally invest and actually see the return on investment.
What was the solutions that Device Technologies already had in place before you started with this pilot project?
Yeah, so Device Technologies is definitely an SAP-centric site. It's not the only solutions they have, but predominantly they're an SAP site. So they have and had then as well SAP ECC6. They had CRM on-premise. They had Business Communication Manager, now known as SAP Contact Center, as well as Business Warehouse, and then a number of the SAP mobility solutions. So it's definitely an SAP-centric site, but at that stage, the web presences that they had were just really static websites, so nothing in terms of an enterprise-grade web solution.
Mm-hmm. When you mentioned that you started with a small project, right, an internal portal for Device Technologies employees, could you explain a little bit for us, for the audience, what was the solution that you were testing out? So how did you start?
Yeah, so that business is a medical cosmetics, and the reason that business unit was chosen was there was already an appetite and for a web channel, because there were already people using a form of website, but it was quite basic. So the solution there was really to put in the ability for B2B customers to buy cosmetic products for their customers through an online portal. Going on, browsing a catalog, selecting the product, putting it into a shopping cart, and then actually that would automatically integrate back into SAP ECC, create the delivery processes, using all the pricing, the standard pricing that's delivered out of SAP, deployed back onto the front-end website, so the pricing was all correct, and then the delivery processes would all be triggered. So then it was really using the delivery and the logistics processes that were already in place in SAP to actually fulfill the product to the customer. So that is really what the solution was. So it's really creating a front-end portal that leverages the back-end processes and really, so it gives a good-looking user front-end to the customer, but still uses those robust back-end SAP fulfillment processes.
Mm-hmm. And I guess as the pilot proved to be a success, it was time to roll out to the external audience, to the customers. And as I remember from our conversations offline, that the pilot was done on SAP Commerce on-premise. And when rolling out to the customers, you made a strategic decision that it's time to go to the cloud and switch to SAP Commerce Cloud. Could you tell us the motivation behind why was the decision made and what were the benefits of moving to the cloud?
Yeah, look, it was an interesting decision, because obviously it was at the beginning of the roadmap. So a big decision was to say, look, there's a big roadmap that we're embarking on, and it's not going to be a short roadmap, it's going to take time. So one of the big benefits of moving to the cloud is actually saying, well, we're moving onto SAP's infrastructure. So the business then didn't have to focus on maintaining their own infrastructure. They could really focus a lot more on business adoption, on the business process drivers, and a lot less on the infrastructure side of things. That is the one big driver. The other one is, as the roadmap takes time, there was a real benefit in the fact that because it's in the cloud, the business would actually benefit from all the improvements that SAP makes to the technology. So they wouldn't have to actually do their own upgrades as the solution evolves and as it improves by SAP. They would actually get the benefit of those improvements that SAP deploys into the platform, which really then allowed the business to scale, to say, well, if there's a new business line that comes along, we don't have to worry about infrastructure because SAP will sort that out. And if there's new solutions that SAP delivers on commerce, they can actually adopt those very quickly because SAP has already deployed them in the platform. So it really allows the business to focus on their business. Focus on selling, focus on new business lines, focus on new channels to market, and really focus a lot less on the things like the plumbing and the infrastructure that SAP can deal with.
I really like it. You get the latest and greatest of the software on the one hand, and on the other hand, you really can focus, as you said, on your business, on your customers, instead of worrying all the time about the technology.
That's right.
But I think we can talk a little bit about the challenges as well now, because the project, as you said, it's a long-term investment. It's a complex project. Device Technologies, they have a lot of different SKUs. We had a conversation with Michelle Stewart from Device Technologies on our previous, and we will link it somewhere up here for those who are interested. And to manage such a complicated project, I think there were some customizing needed from your side, right? Some adapting of the solution. So how did you go around it?
Yeah, I think so. The challenge that they have, as I mentioned earlier, is first of all a large product range. So the large product range implies a complexity around managing of a data model. So the data model is tricky because you really want to have a catalog for the business that has a really diverse amount of product on it, that's easy to search through and find the product that you're looking for. So a lot of thought had to be put into that. It was how are you going to structure a catalog for such a large range of product? And then that leads to things like how enrichment of product, the product imagery, for example, because Device Technologies doesn't manufacture their own product. They're really dependent on their suppliers to actually help enrich their data and get the imagery. So a lot of work had to go into that. So I think one of the biggest things that Device Technologies learned quite early was that there's a lot of business input required in these kind of projects. So yes, there's a technology component, but a large part of it is the business needs to get involved and actually treat this like it's like opening up a new store. You've got to think about what are the banners that you're going to stick up in the store? What are the colors you're going to stick up? What is the furniture going to look like? There's a lot of business decisions that need to be made. So it was really then about building, for Device Technologies, was building a capability to support these kind of products. Like, so having a team that can actually work on enriching product, that can actually constantly add new search criteria to products, add new imagery, and as customers might be struggling to find a product, how do you enhance the facets by which you search? So there's that continuous evolving of the solution, and so a large part of that was working with Device Technologies, setting up a team and a capability under Michelle that could actually do that. That was the one challenge. The other challenge was also then around just getting the user experience right for quite a large range of customers, because if you think there's a large range of product, there's also a very diverse range of customer. There's not just one persona that Device Technologies is working with. They're dealing with procurement people in hospitals. They might be working with medical specialists. They might be working with nursing unit managers. So there's a large range of product, but also a large range of customer. So the user experience and the focus on getting that right for all those different personas was a big part of the project. So a lot of user research, working with customers to actually understand, well, how are we best going to service you as the customer? And that, for example, we talk about surgery booking portal. I mean, that is actually a solution that's built for surgeons to actually order components for a surgery, which is quite a different use case to a nursing unit manager ordering consumables for an operating theatre. So it's getting that user experience right. A lot of focus was required in that area. The good thing was that because SAP works so well in terms of integration between commerce and ECC, was that there didn't have to be a lot of work done there. So a lot of that worked out of the box, and a lot of the effort had to be done more on the user experience and getting that right, which is the logical place where you think the investment should go.
Couple interesting things you mentioned in there. First of all, I noticed that you're the first person that I'm having a conversation about e-commerce who compares an e-commerce with the real brick and mortar store, because usually it's the other way around, right? We're talking about all the differences and how like these are two entirely different areas. And the second one that I wanted to follow up on is you mentioned customer experience, and you mentioned that with a huge amount of products also comes diversity in terms of customers that Device Technologies serve. So the question is how to create these amazing customer experiences for different categories of customers, how to do personalization when they have like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the biggest part is that you've got to get close to your customer. So a large part of it is user research, spending time with customers. I think the worst thing that companies can do is try and design these things in isolation of the customer. The customer is the one in the end who's actually going to really influence and decide whether they like what they see. So I think a large part of it is user research and mapping out that customer journey, defining the personas well, to understand, well, who are the real people who are going to be using the solution, and then actually looking at, well, what is the journey for that customer that is optimum, and then bringing that into the solution and having a solution like SAP Commerce that is flexible, that allows you to build in personalization on the front end, allows you to design the catalog in a way that is personalized. In a lot of ways, that's almost the easier part, because SAP Commerce is highly flexible. The harder part is actually determining, well, talking to your customers and getting the right people on board and getting the right input from the right customers. And also not ignoring the fact that customers are not just your end customer that are buying the product. Customers are also your employees, because the employees also have to maintain the solution. They've got to enrich the solution and enrich the product. So it's also about getting an understanding of are your employees are using the solution to actually drive an optimal customer experience. So it's really defining all those personas well and getting those journeys well defined. And then if you get that right, doing it, if you've got the right technology, that's a large part of the battle is won.
Talking to you makes me proud about our customer experience solutions, Marcus. Thank you very much. As we're talking about customer journeys, what are the other solutions that are part of the ecosystem for Device Technologies? And if you could share some of the future plans in terms of technology, what are you planning for them?
Look, the thing with commerce is, and once again, comparing to my bricks and mortar store, your bricks and mortar store needs to be repainted and remodeled regularly. And in the same way, with commerce, there will always be constant evolution as new technologies come out, with mobility solutions. So I think, a lot more focus on how mobility is going to be used, how Internet of Things might integrate into ordering as hospitals get smarter with their systems. A lot more of integration of those kind of technologies would be something that Device Technologies would look at. As their products are evolving, there's a lot more integration of the products themselves with the solutions to actually, reorder consumables. So those are the kind of things that Device Technologies would be looking at. They're also looking at things like, getting their ERP system onto the latest solution, which is onto S4. So there's a plan to move to S4, and then more focus then around service mobility is a large part of what they're focusing on. So there's constantly things going on there, but I think a large part of it will be just that constant evolution of the commerce solution to really target more and more personas with the solutions and actually personalize the experience a lot more. And then couple that with marketing and personalized offer kind of management. So a lot of things to do there. So about getting a lot closer to the customer. I think that'll be where Device Technologies will invest in the future.
Well, we are happy on our side to support, and we wish you and Device Technologies all the very best in the future endeavors. And I think with that, we have to wrap up. We are running out of time. Marco, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thanks a lot for all the insights.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. It was really good to talk about it. I get quite passionate about customer experience, and I really love to see solutions making a real business difference to our customers and to our customers' customers. So that's our focus. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, and well said. For the audience, as usual, you can find all the additional information in the descriptions below. Stay tuned for more great topics to come. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss anything. Spread the word and let us know what you think using the hashtag DCXShow. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Bye-bye.